Hello, hi, how are you today? In this video, I want to talk to you about generational healing and chronic illness using your new chakras and your new light body connections, the areas that are supposed to connect together. Hi, I'm Patricia. Welcome to my channel, which is about energy healing, healing things from the past, and coming back into a level of love that actually supports who you really are. So let's get into it here. Let us talk about what is generational healing. Well, first of all, this is going to include generational traumas. It's going to be the things that happened to your ancestors, the things that happened to a people. This could include geographical areas. It's going to include bad things that have happened to large groups of people. But as we move forward in history, how does that affect people? Well, sometimes those deeply embedded traumas, famines, starvations, sieges, they are all rearing their ugly head. Everything is coming up to be dealt with, healed, sealed up against the past so it doesn't reoccur. Why would this come up? Well, as we can see sometimes things seem like they skip a generation and then they pop up. Or you can say everyone in my family is prone to things like breast cancer, stomach cancer. These are some of the things that your new light body does not want to carry forward. Now, while a lot of things are getting much more, let's say, sophisticated in the medical community, we're coming to a convergence point where ultimately you're here to be new. That is what it is. So sometimes you're the person in your family that has a recognition of this, or you have it pop up, and it could be stomach troubles. It could, a lot of times this is not dire. These are things that we consider a chronic condition that you're kind of living with. Okay, you have a trouble spot, or is what I call, your famous pain, your trouble spot. What are those things? Is it in the tummy, the gut? Is it in the reproductive? Is it in the head? Okay, this is why I created Four Zone Healing, because I have been able to identify over a long duration of healing people energetically the characteristics and the things that are noticeable that let me know how we're going to do this. Okay, I'm here to help you with this. And so, with generational healing, sometimes comes a chronic illness. Now, some of these are very manageable. If you take, for example, something like diabetes and you go back a couple hundred years, people were dead within months. Now, people manage it, or ideally, they manage it. My father was a brittle diabetic. We all had to eat like a diabetic. We couldn't keep snacks in the house because he was not self-disciplined. He had issues with his parents. His mother did the best she could, but she died when he was, in his early 20s. And so, guess what? The military became his daddy. And so, there was this weird juxtaposition of like, he was able to boss us in that way, and yet he couldn't parent in other ways. Love you, Dad, but, hey, I don't want to inherit that. I don't want that in my kid. I don't want that in my grandkids, right? And if you think like this, you're thinking in the scope of history. What has happened? What happened to these people? And on and on. What if their food source, their food supply was gone? We all think that, everyone was always vegan, but a lot of people had to subsist on animals. They would let the animals go eat, and then they'd eat the animals. And, we get to modern times here, and it's a little bit different than a hunter-gatherer type of society. We go at the grocery store. There are people that can, raise some of their own foods, but it's not the majority of people. So how do you do this en masse? It is through the new light body. It is through new chakra connections that are designed for a modern life and to support you. This is part of evolution. Now, if you don't believe that this is part of evolution, you may not be looking at some of the signs of how have we evolved. We're still breathing, even though we live amongst a lot of exhaust fumes. We are still making babies. Women still go through menopause because that part of their life is done. Those are evolutionary mechanisms for mammals, for highly evolved mammals. We don't keep going until, it's just not viable. Other chronic illnesses, and these are tendencies towards things. These will include especially reproductive areas, respiratory areas, digestive or waste management areas of your body. So it can be systemic. It's going to be your endocrine systems. Now, I just had my thyroid numbers checked. I'm good. I'm like so healthy in the normal range. But that wasn't always the case. So I am living proof. I have the documentation from my team, my medical team. I have that, you know. So how do we start correcting things that maybe were thought at one time to be normal? Or what if your reproductive system is going wonky and you're being told that you're manic or you're depressed? Now here comes the next thing. Why? Why would you want to do this? You want to improve? You want to improve yourself. We are all about self improvement in the easiest way possible by using your new light body, by integrating it, by opening the channels, by feeling and working with the new chakra points and the marma points, which is where you merge energetically. You're merging in the energy you need energetically for your body. So you may have heard terms like chi or your life force or your aura. Guess what? Yes, there is a force of much higher love that fuels you, keeps you alive, helps you thrive. What if more was coming in? What if you could expand and it circulated through your body? And you have a different circulation system, which is called channels. So this also can help to prevent. We want to be preventative. We want to say the buck stops here. We're drawing the line on the sand. We are setting energetic boundaries. We're not going to let the generations make us sick. We're not going to let that ex-spouse make us sick. We're not going to let other people who are still living in karma make us sick. And we want to up level. How does that sound? A lot of people, when they go into these types of illnesses or, chronic healing, their life takes a little bit of a dive for the worst. And what that means is sometimes they find they lack energy, they feel fatigued, they feel sick a lot. That sickness is depressing their organs, so hence they feel depressed. And that can linger. I realize now in retrospect that my father, being a diabetic, it affected his mood a lot. And I mean, he could be angry, cranky, and later he would have these insulin reactions where his numbers would go all wonky. And it affects the mind because it affects your motor skills, your parts of your brain that are pulling forth things like how to talk, it's not a stroke either. There's a very, I won't even call it a delicate balance. It is a strong balance between your endocrine system, your hormones, the function, other things that keep you to function optimally. And he didn't have that. And we manage the blood sugar, but it's much more than blood sugar. And he didn't have the energy to exercise maybe the way they were recommending to him. He didn't have, like a scope. And so, like, we grew up with a moody parent, we grew up with a sick parent. And you don't think of it that way. You just think, like, oh, dad's got diabetes. So, if there's people around you that are sick, if you've had ancestors, grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles that they're part of the generation there, right? And they have this. What's actually really happening? How many areas of life are being affected? Okay, he was fatigued. They had to move their business to the house, which was very innovative at the time, but they never left. He was always home. And then, that made it easier for him to manage. There was a lot of arguing. There was also a lot of what I would call codependency. Okay. You don't see these things as a child because that is your forest. You cannot see the trees in the forest. You're just immersed in it, right? Or you're saying you can't see the forest for the trees, right? You're immersed in it. You're a child. You're growing up in this environment. Now you have perspective. Now you've had an awakening, which is intended to start the up leveling. That is called your ascension. This is with your energy bodies, your subtle body, your etheric body. Okay. So whether you call it your aura, your life force, or as little kids, when I work with them, their force field. Your force field wants to lift you up, right? So if this is you, you get that first push, and what happens? Some people do nothing, okay? They begin to like scroll and scroll and scroll and Dr. Google things, and they may not know that I'm here with solutions, okay? But guess what happens? They go back to karma, okay? They're a little bit up because they started here, they got nudged, but they're going to simmer there until they're being proactive about their ascension. So they can feel like they're in the void or the illness gets worse because it's not getting better. They're aging and they feel like they need more meds. Let me tell you about aging in your light body, and I'm going to do a separate video on this. Aging in your light body is actually very good, okay? Now, you will go through a little bit of time where it becomes time to address another thing that you need to heal, okay? And these things they're not progressive, but they're in a sequence. The sequence makes sense to your soul. So your soul will say, you're stronger now, we can do that. When are we doing that? If you're taking steps and you're up leveling yourself, and what happens with people who work with me is they go up. Sometimes they're like, woo, loop-de-loop. And guess what happened? A retrograde energy, a new moon energy, or a full moon energy, or it's just time for them to heal some specific thing and begin the process. And that can take up to 3 cycles. Each cycle can last about a season. And a lot of people will notice that. They'll be like, well, I had that for 3 or 4 months, and then somehow it got better. Okay. If they are doing some of the work. Now, I'm not against medicine. Unlike some people out there, I don't feel once it's in your physical body, you may need the extra boost of medication. Do you stay on that the whole time? Well, you will feel it because when you work with your light body, you start getting that up leveling that lets you know, hey, we might be able to decrease some of our dosage here. What do you think? Now, that's not up to me. That's a feeling, and then that's a discussion and a conversation. Or is there other plants like herbal supplements, essences that can assist? You betcha, and I know that. I'm an intuitive, I'm a medical intuitive, and not only that, I am a past life regressor, so a lot of things are coming from the past. Okay, so we can see it. So we go up. Here's some retrograde energy to shove you down and rinse you out and let this stuff float to the surface. And guess what? When you do the work with me, you do. You come up a level and then you do something that I call acclimate. You're acclimating to a new state of being, vibrationally, energetically, and physically in your life. You have to maintain that. I teach that also. A lot of people, I realized early on, are left with aftercare. Nobody's asking them the questions up front. And now, if you go to the doctor, you're filling out a list of questions. That might get annoying for you, but it's giving a full picture. If you're taking in someone and they're distressed, sick, with illness, you need a full picture. I want to know. And we have to see what are the other factors surrounding this. Are there other, because things overlap and there's layers. When it comes to healing your light body, you may have heard this expression, peeling the layers, peeling the layers, peeling the onion, lifting up, okay? You're climbing the mountain. You know it, climb every mountain. Search high and low, get yourself cleaned and cleared and up leveled, okay? And then you'll hit another cycle where it may take. Now, does this go on in perpetuity? No, because at some point you're doing a twofold thing. You are integrating your brand new light body, and I'm teaching you how to do that, and I'm teaching you what to do because I'm giving you aftercare. This is something that doesn't happen in other types of sessions where they're like, okay, I read that for you, and you're left sort of holding the bag, and then you're standing there in limbo, or you feel like you're in the void. Okay? Please be proactive about your own ascension. Okay? I can't emphasize that enough. When you don't know, ask. Come to the person who knows it, who's written 8 books and 40 webinars about all the things that happen. Have I had things? Oh, you betcha. Have I prevented things? I truly believe I do. And for other people as well, because I am the guide. Because here's the thing, you're intended to thrive into levels, okay? You're doing this as an individual. And that's really hard for a lot of people to, I think they can grasp it in their mind, but it's hard to accept it emotionally. When you see so much strife and struggle around you, you're like, but I want to help everyone. You can only help yourself because some of this stuff is specific to you. But can you turn around and learn through me? Yeah, I have a practitioner course. Can you do this where it helps other members of your family? Absolutely. Silently, without having a conflict with them, an argument, or smacking it out of their hand and say, stop that, stop eating that, stop doing, what are you doing? Do you know what's happening on planet Earth? They don't know and they don't care. But I can tell you that the method has worked very well with my son, my mom, and many other people that I love and I care about. And I want a relationship, and I want a long relationship. There's people in your life that feel like they're a friend formed at the feet of God, that you'll always know, you've always known them, you'll always know them. No matter what level you're on, or you could say what life or incarnation you're in, or even between lives, because sometimes we are guides to each other in between our lives. For some reason, in other realms, we still love working, but it doesn't feel like the chore. It feels down here in this dense gravity. We care. Now, there are people where they come and go in your life. They were for a season, okay? So focus on you. We're not hanging on to the past. We are moving forward. Join my webinar that is, specifically for this. Come ask your questions. Be guided. Be teachable. Be willing to learn, okay? Because this is new, okay? I came from, a background that like maybe accepted a little bit of spiritual gifts. And I know there's people that from the get-go, everything around them, like one of my neighbors, her grandmother could see the ancestors. You'd walk in the door and she'd scold you because she'd say, why didn't you greet Uncle Joe? He was standing right by the door. And she was a child, and that gift was not open for her, but it was vividly real that there's another realm, and her grandmother existed with connections there and in the physical life. Okay, everyone grows up in a different environment, right? But this is still very new. And no matter what you think you may have known, when you do this kind of work, you glean more. It doesn't matter if you started here and you're like, oh, I did this and this and this. And then for a beginner, they're going to learn this much, right? Because they got to start from somewhere. For someone who considers they've got a little bit of time under their belt, you're still going to learn. And it's going to be at this level. There are always things to glean, learn, and high level experiences to have, which I love because I'm like, yes, they're getting it, they're feeling it, because this is an experience that you're here for. It feels very profound in these small little human bodies we have to feel your energies, go, ramp up. And a lot of people chase it. They just want that high, but they don't understand you're acclimating and things need to kind of greet you. It needs to be other things rising up to meet you, greet you, support you. That's where the support is. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you there. Have a good day. Bye.